Bear witness to this crazy claim. Being here, we would have. What I would like to do is, before we really discuss things with them, invite each of them to talk to us about their journey and how it all started, what were the stumbling blocks, what were the turning points, and etc. etc. So, shall we start with the reverse chronological order and ask Prema to reverse alphabetical order? Would you like to use this, or would you like to say it?
I don't have a presentation. I'll just roll along as we go. First and foremost, Amit Prabhu from our first ALP batch from Genesis. Proud of you of what you've achieved today, so thank you, and thank you for inviting me. I also just want to, before I start, say there are many former GPMers, alum here, and GPMers. So if we hit the bar after Indian Ocean, the drinks are on me. 23 years ago when I started, I was quite clear in my mind that I would only have, and there are people like Archana over here and Nitin Mantri and many others, we would only do 7 or 8 clients and we would not grow into a big company. And the reason why we felt that way was that we wanted to do really good work, and we would not take a whole bunch of clients because we would not be able to do the great work that we were doing. Well, 23 years later, it's been a different story, and I've been pushed and pushed by colleagues who said they wanted to grow. Whether I wanted to grow the company was a different matter. And it is all these wonderful people who then spread out into the different markets. People at the age of 24 who opened, Deepshika who opened the Bombay office, and Nandita, I don't think she's here today, but opened the Bangalore office. And today my daughter is 28, and when I think of her and Deepshika opening the office at the age of 24, I just wonder how I had the courage to do that. I don't think my 28-year-old is worth anything at the moment. So it's a big worry in my mind in terms of why do I feel that way? Let's not go around down that path. I think mothers probably all do that. Our ideas were only about how do we do the right things for our clients, how do we be completely ethical, and what is the kind of value that our people get from working within Genesis. So these were the 3 things that were the singular, even to today. If you look at the organization, those are the 3 things that everyone in the organization knows it is important. And we've always also said that respect is the only thing you own. So each one of us, the way we work with our colleagues, the way we work with our clients, it must reflect respect.
Rajan and Prema, one question and a variant of that, Madan, is at what stage of the journey that you all took on, as Indian PR firm was doing very well, Genesis was doing very well, Sampark was doing very well, at what stage do you think it right to embrace an international BD?
Stop thinking of your, thinking of your organization as your own, and start thinking at some point of time, your institutional journey of business. And in my various organizations, so, we went through this evolution. I think there was a time when we had just the Bombay office, and people would say, oh, you have offices in Delhi and Chennai and Bangalore, and also we did that. Then they said, oh, you have these metros, what about these smaller cities? And we did go into the smaller cities. We had a large associate. I think there was a time about maybe 7-8 years back when people started asking, do you have an international network and what does it offer you? So that's when we seriously thought that from a long-term perspective, perhaps it's good to have a good partner. I'm not saying that you should jump into it with your eyes closed. In fact, I'm on record in one of the earlier articles to say that we will not marry any Gora. But I think we found MxM a partner who shares our values. I think that's what makes it great for our partnership. And that's the reason why we tried it with him.
When we grew to about 60 people, we were very keen to know what was happening in the world beyond what we were doing. And we started attending many of these international events. And some may not know, but we had affiliations first with MSL, and then with Edelman, and also with one of the technology companies. A decision had to be made that as we grew, the same point that you made, Rajan, is that the people in the organization wanted to be a part of the world and not just part of India. That is one point. The second point is that if we were growing at the pace we were, and we were ahead of many, or we were ahead of some, what happens? You're now conflicted. You have one auto company, you cannot do another. You have one bank, you can't do another, etc., etc. So how are we going to manage this? We'll stop growing at some point. So we spoke with, we all were very proud of Harold Person. We'd never met him. So we went to New York, had lunch, and felt that there was magic. And so therefore, we'll do an affiliation, and that we wanted to learn from them. We learned from all of them. We learned from MSL, we learned from Edelman, we learned from Person Mastella. And sometimes it just clicks that way. Interestingly, the question that we had to answer to ourselves was, do we grow beyond India, or do we sell out? Now, if we go out of India, if you look at the way the dollar and the rupee is, one mistake and one office in Singapore is not going to help. So how would we expand? How would we grow? How would our business grow? How would our people grow? So we realized we don't have that capability. We don't have the stomach to make those decisions. So we sat in a room, the leadership and we sat together, and with Person Mastella. So we had an affiliation for 5 years, I think about 4 years. And then when we were asked by Person Mastella whether we would give up about 10%. Now again, I just want to mention here that it's a very interesting point. Even my husband, even though he's a lawyer, he said, why did you make this decision, and tell me why you thought about it. I told Person Mastella it's either 100% or none. And I remember Bill Ryan says, I have to make calls to New York to find out whether we can work that way. The reason of most of these problems that come from joint ventures is who is going to be the boss. And I wanted to be the boss, and the leadership was very clear they wanted to continue being bosses and therefore we had to make that choice and it was very strong, very difficult, everyone had their own views on it. Ultimately, we came to the view that there was no option, since we could not invest in markets beyond India, we have to sell out. And that's what we did. I have never looked back, and I don't think the leadership did. I think that each one of us got a lot out of it, and that is the only way. I know that Madan, you're still very much 100% owned. Sometimes you can think one way or sometimes the other, but that is what.
But have you been able to meet those, desires of the way you want to grow in terms of the growth path and people moving on, looking at things abroad, etc.? Has that happened?
So there is Shrey in China, and there are people, one in London, and there are not enough going out. One of the problems is that you're looking at Asia Pacific. Other than China, all the other markets are small, and our colleagues say we handle a bigger business when we have practice areas, and they run their own SKUs in the organization. They want a big market. They want to go to US, and somehow we are not being able to see great value that even those who've gone
in other WPP businesses, for instance, in your media agencies, etc.
Which ones?
In other WPP businesses, media agencies, etc., there is movement. People
exactly. Yeah.
Media.
Yeah, but I can say that public relations is different. It is very close to how you engage. It's a client servicing. It's very close to understanding the nuances. We've had people who come in from different markets. They find it very difficult to understand how many languages, how many cities, and how do you engage, and what works in which market and which doesn't work. It's not easy. And for us to go out, if you ask me to go out, I really will have a very tough time. Because each market in Europe and US, I don't know how Rob does it. I think he's lived here a bit now, and he's settled into understanding what India is about. It is very difficult because you need to understand the sentiments, the needs, what the consumer wants, what do they believe in, what do they not believe in. You can have a catastrophe in one state because you didn't understand the sensitivities.
Madan, what about you?
Just add I think foreign collaboration probably has different hues. We are 51% owned by Ketchup. But honestly, over the last 3.5 years, I still feel that I am a 100% owner. I have absolute freedom to do whatever I want. I can hire anybody. Sure, we need to meet certain numbers and all, but that's something which in any case, even in the past, we did it on our own, even when we were 100% owned by us. So realistically speaking, I think it's the choice of partners. As Prema said, we also had a 5-year courtship with Ketchup, so we understood them, they understood us. And once the trust is built up, I think the confidence levels are reasonably infinite, and they give you tremendous rope to work. For instance, I chair the board meetings despite having a 49% stake, so they are absolutely fine with that.
In terms of actual, impact since they've come in, has it, apart from the monies that have come in what way has it really helped your businesses being part of an international network?
I think there is probably better acceptability, I would say, both at the client level as well as at the people level. I think our retention levels are far higher now compared to what it was 3 years back. I think the acceptability level is better. I think we were always transparent and ethical, but with Ketchup coming in, there is that much more credibility to us. I think it's helped in every way.
Madan, all yours. But tell me, didn't you ever think of, there were murmurs, because we keep hearing various things, but there were murmurs that you were looking at some international tie-up over the years. But did you ever think of tying up with anybody?
Yes, I think about 6 or 7 years ago, we had a pretty lengthy discussion with the WPP group, and it was led by J. Walter Thompson, JWT, as their advertising agency. So, I've had some funny ideas of earn out versus sell out. And I said, well, I don't understand this earn out business, because find your corner. You'll load this cost, that cost, this cost, and you'll tell me not to do this and not to do that. Finally, I won't make any money and there will be no earn out. Not many people who have sold have made money. At a 6 multiple or something, I don't think it's attractive enough. So why does one sell? Individuals will have their own different reasons. So it is to grow, as ma'am said, it is to get access to other markets, it is to make some personal wealth, or it is simply to plan for succession, or it is to simply compete. I know a couple of firms that sold had severe margin pressure. They were actually losing money when they sold out. And those are not on the seat here. I know their balance sheets. So, they were, the only reason that one would have thought was for succession. Now, the WPP group promised that, okay, we consider a sellout, stake sale and pay at different points in time for the sale. But finally turned around and so, no, our strategic advisors are saying, you can only do an earn-out, therefore it fell out. After that, we have not. Now, different people keep coming to meet us all the time. And when anybody, particularly a white man walks in or a white woman walks in, and now even the Chinese for that matter, there is always murmurs. So the murmurs are there, but we are not selling. So what's the way we have decided to do succession? Because my sons are both, for want of a better word, rascals, and they're not interested in our business. They want to do something of their own. So I decided, well, we'll convert it into a partnership like the law firms do or the audit firms do. And if that doesn't work out, simply list it on the Singapore Stock Exchange or the Indian Stock Exchange and make it a sustainable, professionally managed company. And one day simply walk out.
With the diversified portfolio of clients that you have now, did you not feel that having an international partner would help retain them or get more?
No. See, PR is not rocket science. PR is finding public relations. Everything is available. Anybody who wants to learn can learn it from a network firm or can go to SlideShare and every presentation is available. Or learn it from the books or Google, or simply go and ask Sunil Gautam how it is done. So, learning is not so much an issue. You just have to have faith in yourself, a self-confidence, some audacity, and you reserve this right to outthink and outwork everyone. That's your prerogative. So, ever in a competitive context, you must have that conviction in yourself, and you will succeed.
Anand, to your question, to your point of PR not being rocket science, and that's the question from everybody else next, is that we've seen that in the entire marketing services domain over the last few years, despite the fact that PR as an industry has been around in India for a fair amount of time, PR comes at the bottom of the value chain. And this is obviously to a large extent the failing of the industry, because PR elsewhere in the world is not is really up there in the value chain. So why do you think it is so? And is it a failing of the industry? Is it a failing of the clients, or is this how India is? Yeah, that's for me.
You see, whether you're at the bottom of the pyramid or the heap or whatever you call it, or at the top, it is by your choice. So the PR people have chosen to be there, and that's why they're there. I often hear that, when will PR do PR for itself? When will PR get respect? I don't suffer from the problem, or I don't, many of us suffer from the problem that we're not respected. We're very respected people. But if somebody has that notion, it is by his or her own choice. Public relations is finally a knowledge profession, like legal profession, or like medical profession, or like many other professions. I see doctors who are senior surgeons go home at midnight and take out their books and start reading what happened. It took me an entire year to get 50 of my colleagues to read one single book on public relations. And in my interviews, when I ask people, have you read a single book on public relations since you joined PR? 98% say no, and the remaining 2% generally bullshit, or say, I read The Rise of PR and The Fall of Advertising. I know it's bullshit. So, if you want to learn, if you want to be at the top, it is your choice. And those of us who exercise that choice will never have a problem.
Rema, your view?
I think the business has become more complex than ever before. I never imagined it would change so fast in my lifetime. And we keep re-engineering our business. And thanks to Nikhil Dev, who loses his hair every day going to clients, and each client's need, each client's problem. And today we say that campaigns which we used to do for 1 year, our campaigns are of issues and crisis. The business of everyday business is set aside. We're just going for clients, have been facing issues and crises inside, outside, with the government, or with the environment, the way it is, and things like that. So the excitement, I'm more of a business manager now, and not so much, that's what Nikhil does, is the entire running of the organization as far as the clients are concerned, is the stories that we hear back is the challenge of doing business, and the clients want our support in helping them to achieve their business goals. And once they share that with you, you're able to put together a campaign that can support the sales and marketing. So it just depends on how the relationship develops over time, where they trust in us or trust in the industry to be able to understand, as I was once asked, do you understand what we go through every day? Whether it is selling cars, whether it is selling insurances, whether it's selling pizzas, whatever it is, they have huge challenges. And the CEOs themselves, even all the marketing people, will call you in to say, how can you help us? And that's where we are challenged, and therefore it helps us to understand the environment in that sector. If we look at what's happening in government on the food and beverages, there are issues right from labeling to all the issues of nutrition, and then you've got this whole side of, calling food such as this as junk food, so how are you going to, then there's pesticide, there's innumerable. I mean, the kind of learning, I wish we could write more books about what we've achieved, what all of us have achieved individually and collectively in this changing environment in the last 20 years. And that, I think, is what, it's very, very frivolous way of saying that, oh, you do public relations. And so people want to write it off as just merely talking to media. The media you have is one of the channels, but the point is, what are you going to do? What is your strategy going to do to help this business to go forward?
Rajan, we then go
I think I agree. I think we deserve far better stature. Probably we are not in the same pedestal as lawyers, chartered accountants, even market research or advertising people. I think to some extent it's also partly because of commoditization. I think they are because of two reasons. One is undue emphasis on the media, and perhaps second thing is because of fragmentation. But I agree with you. I think we need to do a lot to raise the stature of the industry.
Okay. Questions from the audience? Yeah, please.
I just want to add one thing. If we look at the business from media relations to now, the core being content, and content is not just of any one business, it is right across from technology to corporate to consumer to health and wellness, etc. Then you've got now creativity coming in. If you're not creative, you fail. Nobody wants to see you, hear you, nothing. And the way you are going to communicate is going to be through storytelling. Now, how do you overnight learn all of this? And then you now have a live situation through Twitter and through the whole social media. So it is nothing of what we were doing 5 years ago. I mean, it's absolutely changed. And if we don't, what we do is every year we change our strategy for the next year. And it's based on the way the environment is changing, and the pace of change is humongous.
Questions? Any questions? Yeah. Pradyuman, how many questions can we ask?
Hi.
How much time do we have?
I got time for 2 questions.
Okay. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
We all talked about the buyout and partnership. How far is the time when we see Indian PR agencies?
We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
How far is the time when we see Indian PR agencies going abroad and buying out, not being sold out?
How far is the time when Indian PR agencies go out and, I think
it
I'm
depends
sure
on
you can buy
Narayan Modi. If we can get our
Sorry?
rupee appreciated, I think we should all be there. In fact, I joke with kitchen guys. I mean, if my rupee was 60 rupees, if dollar was $60 to a rupee, first I would have been buying out the agencies in the world.
So the good news is that Indian PR agencies already started going abroad. We have an office in Dubai. We have an office in Sri Lanka now. We'll soon start. We have an office in Singapore, and we'll do a small acquisition in New York early next year. So the Indian flag will be there in New York. So.
Okay, one more question. Yeah.
Pradyuman, I didn't have a question, but I just had a comment to add to what the panel had said. And I think one of the other things that's changing this business is the paid editorial. And that's really also making it much, much more difficult for agencies and making it mandatory to think out of the box and be creative. So I think that's an element which we need to look at moving forward, to be completely creative and innovative in our approach to everything we do.
But didn't paid editorial always exist? Formalized or, in an informal way?
I think especially for brands, it's increased much more in the last few years.
Didn't paid editorial always exist in a formal or informal way? Mother is thinking.
We live in India. And therefore, I was told, I didn't attend a panel last year. One editor came and he was cursing the PR industry. It was like a pot calling a kettle black.
Well, the editor's other publication also now is accepting paid content.
So, I am not aware that if you had a great story, if you have an imaginative pitch, I have never had a constraint, or any of us never had a constraint to go and see that story. What happens is, the public relations industry, and many of you here would be accused of that, you have become desktop warriors. You believe in dishing out emails from your mailbox, and God knows who got it and what he did with it. And but then you say, oh well, it is the editor's prerogative to publish it or not. Well, it is the editor's prerogative. But you could do a little better. You could have a little engagement with the editor. You could explain the context a little better. And if he is receiving 500 mails and you make a personal pitch, well, chances are that you will treat it better. So there will be, sometimes people will say, oh, but how do they get such great media? Must be there something, well, I know. Well, there's nothing like that. You try it yourself. Be open-minded. This is a business of engagement first, and only when you engage can you tell a story. So storytelling comes next. All across the board, I'm seeing evidence, and it's not only with the agencies, even with the clients. They're losing that touch with the society. Social media has contributed to that a little further. So if we engage our stakeholders well, including the media, I don't think we should ever have a problem in getting the story across. It is not at all a story that will get published, but if it is a good story, it will. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to just wrap up this and ask you,
Pradyuman, I have a question, please.
Viruka said only 2 questions, but anyway, go ahead.
We're running behind schedule.
Yeah, but I need to answer.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Sonia from Catch Me Sampal, and congratulations, thanks for the inspiring words. You're the PR voice of the industry.
Is that Sonia Kulkarni?
Yes, hi.
Okay.
and the men and women behind the corporate success story. And of course, former boss, current boss, and once upon a time, dream boss for me. But
It would be great. Just react to some words that I mentioned. Talent, then and now.
We find good talent, but I think on the other side, I think there is fair amount of young kids who come in who are probably not very clear in their mind, and I think the level of engagement of them is perhaps leaves quite a bit to be desired. So I think there is a huge talent gap in our industry.
So the talent today is very good. I know there's a whole lot of people saying you don't get talent, but I think if you choose properly, if you have a good talent team who's going and interviewing and doing tests, and that's I think the talent is much better than ever before, because earlier there were none, and there is now. So it's up to you how you choose them.
Mother, I finally have an agreement with Prema ma'am. Talent today is much superior than it was earlier.
And digital media. Your 140 characters in digital media.
I was in ECO summit last September in Paris, and I heard a grand old man who was younger than most of us, Lord Chatterton, use an expression for that. He said, if you are not jumped onto the social media wholeheartedly, you are walking on a railway track and a train traveling at 200 kilometers an hour is hurtling towards you and it's soon going to run over you. So we are all waking up a little slow, but we last week had a conference, a sponsored conference entirely, and we did it, open it up to all our competitors, at least people based in Bombay. We called the social media agencies also to the conference. We webcasted, some 2,000 people watched it live on social media analytics. We had somebody from WTO from London come over, we had somebody from CIC China there, we had the BJP head of social media come and give a lecture, and some very eminent panelists on 3 other panels. So we're trying to catch up double fast, and maybe in a year or 2, we should say, well, even 20-25% of the revenue comes in social media. That would be a proof.
I love social media when there are crises and, like what's happening in Kashmir, and you getting absolutely instant information. But otherwise, I really would rather be on a beach and not worrying with that Twitter and whatever. I love Facebook because, we're really looking at each other on Facebook and we're not meeting, we don't get to meet people. But yeah, I just think that it's taken a hell of a lot chunk of our life away.
I think social media and digital is going to revolutionize the way communication is done. I'm not sure about the time frame, maybe 3 years, maybe 5 years, but it's certainly here to stay. And I think all of us need to understand this new animal, otherwise we'll be dinosaurs.
So we'll come back to the question that was asked. Is there something that you would possibly relook at if you had to, live your entrepreneurial life once again? Rather than you, anybody would start.
I wouldn't do anything different.
I think we made anything significant mistake where we believe that we should have done something different. I don't know, maybe we would have gone faster, maybe we would have got tired faster. But realistically speaking, I can't think of anything which made took us back several years or made us do something, a big mistake.
I would start going to panel discussions a little earlier. No, on a serious note, I think the globalization of our own perspective on public relations and that had really started when we started going out. So we remained in a cocoon for a very, very long time, We were market leaders in financial with a 70-80% share, and therefore we were Brunswick and College Hill and something else packed in one. And therefore we just were too comfortable with ourselves. It's only until the downturn hit us. In 2008, when the world collapsed, 40% of our revenue just vanished overnight. And we said, no, this is not good enough. We need to diversify. We need to do something. Is that when we started, we joined a partnership of independent firms called PRY Worldwide, started going overseas to conferences, started going to Miami, ECO, all over. And I think those perspectives that got added by sharing or listening or learning from peers all over has accelerated our understanding and our ability to compete and respond much better. So I would do that. There's another thing, but I have no control over that. I would have preferred next time to be born in the US to Dan Edelman as Richard Edelman, and I would today be running $1 billion firm, maybe even better.
On that note, I think we had a good enlightening session from three founders. They've given their story. We've asked them some questions, and I think it was a very enriching session. And thank you. Thank you for your contribution to the industry. I think we could all end the session by giving them a standing ovation.